Nigeria come the 29th of May. Now, in the meantime, President Goodluck Jonathan remains in charge, but with what some might say is little prestige and insufficient credibility to take the initiative in the aftermath of his election defeat. One school of thought, however, might suggest that he's become somewhat of a hero. He has been named as the person who achieved one of the most impossible feats on the continent, a groundbreaking achievement of a peaceful transfer of power from a ruling party to an opposition in post-colonial Africa. He's been celebrated by some who are saying that he needs to have a Nobel Peace Prize award, while others are saying, hang on, let's not forget the millions of money, of nairas that disappeared under his watch. So clearly, there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered in Nigeria. I'm joined now by Izang Ashoms, who is an analyst, here to unpack all of that for us. Izang, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Good to be here.
Are you surprised by the election outcome?
I wasn't surprised. I think Nigeria was very ripe for change. A lot has happened under Jonathan's watch for the past 5-6 years since he took over from Umaru Yar'Adua, who died in office. And a lot has happened. Nigerian people have gotten very uneasy around corruption, around security. And also Jonathan, with his cabinet, people that are really close to him making decisions, they seem to make a lot of wrong decisions. And then corruption was just something that you celebrate, for the first time in the history of Nigeria. Actually, I think an article in the New York Times said under Goodluck Jonathan's watch, the corruption level, the money that disappeared was so huge compared to previous governments. So it was good for Nigeria. It was good change. Nigeria was very ripe. Nigeria was at a very crossroads. I thought it was a defining moment for Nigeria, either to continue with Jonathan and go downhill, or go on with Buhari and begin to see how you can rebuild the nation.
But he's being celebrated at the moment by some on the streets of Nigeria.
Unfortunately, and it's shocking for me that we celebrate Goodluck Jonathan today for handing over power to Muhammadu Buhari. He lost. So what would you expect from a leader who lost the elections in the ballot box? The people say, look, you've lost and you have to move on. But for us to begin to see him as a hero and begin to say, look, maybe we should nominate him for a Nobel Prize, I think that is really sad that the nation of Nigeria has a very low standard of morality and also of leadership at that level. There's just no way we could. It's the right thing to do for any leader. You lost the election, pass on the baton to the next leader and just move on. But when we turn around and begin to celebrate him instead of looking at the positive and say, look, concentrate on how we can rebuild Nigeria, then it's really sad.
Enter Muhammadu Buhari again, this time democratically. Do you think he will follow up on some of the transgressions and some of the discrepancies that were raised during Goodluck Jonathan's term of office?
I think he would. Maybe he would use a different approach. When he became the head of state, the military head of state in 1984 in Nigeria for 20 months, the first thing he did, he took over from Shehu Shagari, who was a democratically elected president, and he took a lot of the ministers and the cabinet and the president and a lot of the leaders, he took them to courts, and some of them were sentenced to jail for 100 years, 150 years, because it was so corrupt. And it wasn't even as corrupt as we have Nigeria today. So for him, having a good Nigeria, having a corrupt-free Nigeria is one of his benchmarks. That's part of his brand as a person. He believes so much in Nigeria, so he's definitely going to go after some of the leaders, not just Jonathan. There's a lot of the ministers and some of the closest allies to Jonathan that are extremely, they've siphoned money to Swiss banks, to France, and a whole lot of it, And I think the right thing to do is to say, look, we should start our own hashtag, bring back the money. Let's get back the money. I'm not going to put you in jail as long as you get the money back. This money doesn't belong to you. It belongs to Nigerian people. Nigeria has 3 major problems. The first problem is corruption. The second problem is corruption. And the third problem is corruption. If we can deal with corruption, we would be able to deal with a lot of the problems that we have as a nation.
Speaking about some of the problems that persist in Nigeria, Boko Haram being one of them, we see Muhammadu Buhari, the president-elect there, a devout Muslim.
Yeah.
Is he likely to win favor perhaps with Boko Haram? Are we likely to see some of the attacks subside as a result of his presidency?
I think so. I think it's definitely going to subside. If you look at the elections last weekend, and I think it's just one of the signs that Boko Haram is in favor of having a Muslim as a leader. But having a Muslim as a leader is not the same as having a fundamental Muslim as a leader, because General Muhammadu Buhari is not that way. He said he's a born-again Democrat. So if you are a born-again Democrat, from a military guy to a Democrat, then you will have to make sure that Nigeria is a secular state. You know, you have to observe that. You have to have freedom of religion. You have to have freedom of interaction and all that. But Boko Haram, obviously, a lot of the Muslim leaders, the northern leaders, are in support of Boko Haram, secretly, which a lot of people don't know. They support them. Boko Haram was not created by the leaders, the political leaders in the north, but they used it to be able to destabilize and bring confusion, because religion is always a huge issue in Nigeria. The Christian and the Muslim is always going to be a huge issue. But Muhammadu Buhari has a lot of experience as a military guy. He fought the Nigerian Civil War in the 60s. He was a commander, he was a general. So he has a lot of experience, and he would go ahead now. And they know Boko Haram is very much aware of who they're going to be dealing with right now. He knows them very well. And also, you fight corruption, then you're going to be able to get a lot of armor into the military and be able to take on Boko Haram. But we hope to see that subsides, and also sitting down and really bringing strategies. A lot of the top military officers today in the Nigerian military used to be way his junior, that is Muhammadu Buhari. And the military, there's always that seniority, and you obey a general, whether he's retired or not. So we hope to see that. And Boko Haram will definitely, go back and really say, look, we think this is not we're definitely going to lose this one, because Muhammadu Buhari, he's a chief strategist. He fought a lot of different wars in Sudan, in Chad, in the same area where Boko Haram is operating.
And is highly respected by the military. Yes,
he's one of the benchmark of a military man. He is not a military man who got into politics and got corrupt. He's never been that way. And I think he's one of the reasons why the Nigerian military will begin to regain confidence back from the people, because the Nigerian military has really lost its power. We don't look at them the way that we used to. When we were kids, everybody wants to join the Nigerian military. But now he's not the same way. He's very well respected. He rose to the rank of a general. Obviously, he was head of state. And also, he was someone who never really allowed corruption or allowed power to really pull him away. He made sure he's there, diligent, disciplined, and dedicated to his job. And that is what he's not just going to bring to the Nigerian military, but to the Nigerian people, where you're focused, there's integrity, there's ethics, and you focus and you rebuild the nation.
He seemed to have a lot of inclusion during his short stint in office previously. You mentioned to me that he had a largely Christian cabinet, regardless of the fact that he himself was Muslim. But does he have enough support at the moment? During that short stint, as I mentioned, he was overthrown.
Yes.
Do we know whether or not he's got the support of the majority? I know, yes, the ballot papers would say so. But in general, in Nigeria, what's support like for Muhammadu Buhari?
I think it's going to be a bit difficult for him, because he's coming into a nation that has really embraced corruption as part of life, and he's very anti-corruption. So definitely there's going to be a lot of business people, stakeholders, owners of oil wells that are going to look, hey, you're coming to take away from us. This is our way of doing things. But he's going to have to fight them, or he's going to have to look for a way to bring them in as he goes along. But they also know that when he was president in 1984 for 20 months, he was very anti-corruption. He was all about discipline. So they're very much aware of that even before he was elected. They're very much aware of what he stands for. But he's going to come in now, and he would have to really fight it. He would have to really say, look, corruption is something that we have to deal with, and there's just no way you're going to be able to deal with it. In 1984, when part of his cabinet were a lot of his cabinet majority were Christians, but he was Muslim, a very dedicated, devout Muslim. His petroleum minister, Professor Tam David, was Muslim. He was Christian rather, and right now, he's trying to be very inclusive. A lot of the guys around him also. His vice president is a Christian, Professor Osimbajo. He's not just a Christian, but he's a pastor. He's a full-time pastor. He's a professor of law. So it's just about bringing in and putting the right people around him. And that was what Jonathan failed to do. And if you bring in the right people, it's not just about Buhari. Buhari cannot really rebuild Nigeria alone. How do you make sure you choose the right people for the portfolio of the Minister for Petroleum, Minister for Finance, not based on political alliance, not based on your politician, but based on their ability to be able to rule it, their character to be able to make sure that they steer Nigeria towards a positive way.
All right, as briefly as possible, he's going to need a good team with him, but he also needs to be up for the challenge physically. There were rumors about his health. What do we know?
He's very healthy. He's very old, obviously. He's 72 right now. Every evening he takes a walk around his home. He was a military guy, so he's very fit and healthy. There's no any sort of like cancer or anything. It was just a political propaganda by the PDP. So we hope to have him, hopefully maybe for the next 8 years if we really want to be able to rebuild Nigeria. But I think he's healthy as far as I know. So we just hope that he's going to stay that way to be able to do lots.
All right, let's leave it there, at least for now. Always a very engaging discussion with you, Izang Ashoms. Thank you so much for that. All right, let's leave it there, at least for now. Quick ad break. We'll be back to say bye-bye in just a moment. I understand that we've already run out of time, in fact, for the quick ad break. So I'm going to say goodbye to you now. Thank you so much for joining.